Hello everyone, welcome to this week's GT Sport Daily Race C race review, where we are taking the Group C monsters around Fuji International Speedway, and in one of these videos we are going to come under sustained pressure from a subscriber. So this week's race, if you've seen the strategy guide, is 13 laps around Fuji International Speedway. In the Group C cars, that's the sort of Group 1 cars from the 1980s, tyre weight at ×4, fuel at ×2, and just a racing hard tyre available. So no strategy for this one, pretty much a flat out race without really any concern regarding your tyres or your fuel for the duration. So first race we're going to take a look at here, we have picked the Jaguar XJR9. As you can see, and as was predicted by a lot of people, the Sauber Mercedes is the car of choice. I think there's 17 of them in this race. We're starting this race in 4th place, coming towards the first corner. We actually break fairly late, you can see how close we are to the car in front, but P5 SST van of Key 25 Stream Fame decides to sling it down the inside and overtake us. So down one position at the beginning, and to be honest, the Jaguar just did not seem to be the car to be in this race. They certainly seem to be struggling to hold on to the cars in front, particularly in these initial stages. You can see the gap just open up quickly. We're actually going to jump all the way forward to lap number 9. We're just about managed to sort of hold on to the shirt tails of the 3 cars in front. P1 was absolutely away, and we have the car in P4 there of Burst 0185, who featured in the Group 2 video. He's dropped backwards in this one. It makes a mistake coming out the second last corner, allows us to go round the outside into the last corner on the power nice and early. And the one thing that the Jaguar is very good at is going down this main straight. I think it's the fastest out of all 5 of the cars available. So we managed to open up a big enough gap to not come under any pressure into turn 1. And that was pretty much how this race was to go. That was pretty much all the action we were to be involved in. Started to close up in the 2 cars in front just a little bit, but certainly nowhere near to be able to kind of put them under enough pressure or sort of make up any further position. So 4th place, I think that's where we started in the Jaguar. That was the first race, and we decided we were not going to be picking the Jaguar again. It just felt just that little bit off pace, certainly in my hands anyway. Race number 2, we have moved on to the Nissan, the R92 CP from 1992. Once again, the field dominated by the Mercedes. I do wonder why people just don't kind of sort of mix it up a little bit and sort of use a different car now and then. It's always the same. Whatever car seems to be dominating the leaderboards, pretty much the whole field always picks it. It's just a sort of mindset that I don't quite understand, if I'm completely honest with you. But this race is about to get underway. We're in P2. You see the gap we've got to the car behind. We look behind I think P3, which was SST Ban, who had dived us in the first race, disconnected just before the race started. So you can see the gap to the car behind us is nearly a second by the time we get to the braking zone in turn 1. But we are going to be the victim of quite a spectacular dive bomb. We see it coming, we have no choice but to kind of delay our turn in to avoid a collision, avoid a penalty, or avoid the risk of a penalty, and we're down into P3 in this one. Portuguese driver going Gazzo there. I don't think he meant it, but he realised he'd missed his braking point and decided that he would use my car to slow his down just a little bit. And really what you should do in this situation is stay to the left hand side, keep the braking in a straight line, and don't hit the other car in front. However, a lap later, he's going to go wide into the last corner. It's going to give us a run down the main straight. It's not going to give us any difficulties. He did actually put his hazards on after the first corner in a mark of apology, I guess. So when we go for the overtake here, it doesn't make life too difficult for us. We're in the inside. It's just a case of getting the braking right for turn number 1, which we managed to do pretty much spot on. There's a little bit of contact, but just racing at the end of the day. And we're back up into P number 2. We're about 3.3 seconds behind the FTR Alex and the Mercedes, the Spanish driver. Could we close that gap down? So we jump forward here to lap number 5. We've got that gap down to 1.1 seconds, but unfortunately, by the smallest of margins, we're going to pick up a track limits penalty. So a half-second penalty there, and we'll just jump forward to serving that penalty, and you're going to see the damage that does. So a half-second penalty. We were 1.2 seconds behind when we served the penalty. and by the time we get down to the main straight, that gap's going to be around about 3.5 seconds, I believe. So quite a costly penalty. We were closing the gap down. We did seem to have the pace advantage over the Spanish driver, but still half the race to go. The only thing we can really do here is get the head down and see if we can start closing that gap down once again. So we jump forward here to lap number 9, and you can see that we've got the gap down to under 2 seconds at this point. Not quite closing up as quickly as we were initially, but we are starting to get close enough to maybe give the Spaniards something to think about. And again, we make a little bit of a mistake, just getting on the throttle just that little bit too early, coming out the chicane. So easy to do in these Group C cars. The back end is always a bit leery, always at the very edge of adhesion, particularly in this last sector. Very difficult to negotiate these cars around here, and that gap increases to 4.1 seconds. Jumping forward to the last lap here, we've not really managed to make any further inroads into that gap. I guess my sort of spirit maybe gone a little bit. Just settling for second place, bring the car home and take the P2. Pretty much an uneventful race up until this point anyway. However, there is going to be a little twist right at the very end here as we come into the last corner. The yellow flags are going to come out now. I just assumed this was going to be a back marker, but if we look to the right hand side there, FTR Alex has binned it on the last corner. So let's just join on board with Alex here. Coming into the last corner, the race is won. He gives the outside curb there plenty of room, but gets a little bit of a tank slapper on, just catches it as he's trying to correct the car, and it's enough to spin him around and put him into the wall. So that's a shame for that driver there. Good for me, we get pick up the win. But I think we've all been there, we've all had that accident out the last corner. Just unfortunate, just one of these things. But we pick up the victory in the Nissan. Nissan actually was really nice. The best lap I did in the Nissan was a 28.9. So if you're watching this and you've been choosing the Mercedes the entire time, I can't urge you enough to try the other cars. They are good. They're all worth racing. The Mercedes is not that much quicker than the other cars out there. So moving on to race number 3, this is going to be the feature race. So we're in pole position for this one, and we have chosen the Mazda 787B. So we've got the German Nils in P2 in the Mercedes, and we have the Greek of Karachuto GT in P3, and they're going to be our sparring buddies for this race. So as this race gets underway, we get a massive amount of wheel spin in first gear, and we are slow off the line. You can see P2 closing up on us all the way towards turn 1. We're going to be under pressure here, so we're going to have to go defensive and try and sort of fend this attack off. We brake just a fraction, a little bit late, don't quite get the line right. The German gets a much better exit, and we're down to P2 straight away. So 3 races, 3 positions lost on the first corner. That's definitely something I need to work on. But we tuck into P2 in the Mazda. We go a little bit wide into turn 2 there. Thankfully we don't pick up a penalty, and we're under pressure from the Greek driver behind us now into turn number 4. So we're going to go slightly defensive, and we're not quite managing to hit our apexes here. We've not had a great start to this race. A little bit of a slide on there from the Mazda. Not the easiest car to get around this circuit, but certainly got plenty of pace. We're under pressure coming into the chicane. We decide to park it in the middle of the road. The Greek driver very sensibly doesn't try anything too silly in the opening corners, and I could tell straight away from the Greek driver behind me, and as the sort of opening laps proceeded, that I felt quite safe with this driver behind me. I was quite confident that they weren't going to go for the move unless it was absolutely on. You know how sometimes you just get that feeling in a race with a driver that they've got some good racecraft behind them, and they're not going to do anything too sensible. And it means you can just, when you're coming into these sort of heavy braking zones, just brake at your normal point and just trust the driver behind to sort of not collect you in an accident. And I was definitely getting that feeling from Karachuto in the early stages of this race. So the Germans have managed to open a little bit of a gap as we come to the beginning of lap number 2 into turn number 1 now. Managing to close up quite nicely under the brakes there. Now I was getting the impression that the German was a little bit on the ragged edge watching over these first 4 laps. We've jumped to lap number 4 here into the chicane. So I was kind of confident at some point the German was going to make a bit of a mistake, and we get a little bit of a mistake here from the German into the first of the 3 sort of not very much fun corners in the last sector of Fuji. Jumping to the TV camera here, some fantastic TV footage or TV camera footage here on GT Sports. Always a absolute joy to watch. Onto the main straight we come. We are in the slipstream here of the German driver in front. Mazda very good down the straight as well. It certainly seems to have a better top speed than the Mercedes. The German try to break the slipstream as we come down into turn number 1. We're going to show our nose. We're not going for the move there. Just try to kind of make the German have to look behind us, trying to see if we can put him off into some of the corners. Again, coming out of turn number 1, we're going to go wide here, and this is really me just trying to distract the German driver, and I don't know if it works. As we come into turn number 2, the German is just going to slightly cut that corner and pick up a half-second penalty. So that means if we can just stay close enough for the rest of the lap, we should pick up that position fairly comfortably. As you've seen in the last race, a half-second penalty amounted to around about 2 seconds lost on the track. But the German's very good through this middle sector. Always managed to open up a little bit weak into this final sector. Coming into the chicane here, we're going to see a dive bomb on the radar. Thankfully, it was just that car or the back marker there, but that did give us a little bit of a fright. Not too much though, didn't lose too much time. Not having a great line here through the last sector by the looks of it. The German, back end of his car all over the place. As I said, he did seem to be on the ragged edge here. He's going to go wide into the last corner, get a little bit of a tank stapper on, and we're going to poke our nose up the inside. Not going to try and make any contact though. We don't want to pick up a penalty. I think the German did run wide out the last corner as well as picking up that half-second penalty. And that pretty much was that driver out the fight for the rest of the race. So we've got a little bit of clean air now. Can we kind of pull away from the Greek driver behind us, who, as you can see, is still very much in their wing mirrors, still very much a threat as we go into turn 1 there. So we got the head down, and we were able to put in some pretty sensible laps, including the fastest lap on lap 6 there, a 1:29.168. But as you can see from the timing screen on the left and the sort of the view from the Greek driver in the top right hand corner, we still very much have the attention, and we make a mistake into turn number 2, that's going to put his pressure around 100R here. Now the Mazda was very weak compared to the Mercedes, it would appear around 100R, and into turn number 4 here, seemed to be constantly under pressure, and I would sort of come out in turn number 2 maybe about 6-7 tenths ahead quite often. By the time I came out of turn number 4, that gap had been halved, so it just seemed to be an area of weakness for the Mazda. So not getting into the chicane, kept missing that apex as well. Again, just feeling the pressure from the driver behind. Never been a big fan of having a driver too close behind me, I have to say. I don't think anyone can drive at their absolute best when they've got a driver right behind them either. So again, we're missing the apex here into the second to last corner. That's going to put us under pressure down the main straight. Probably the most pressure, or the closest the Greek driver has been at any point in the race. So we get a reasonable exit out the last corner, but the Greek driver also gets a good exit and is firmly in the slipstream here. So we go to the right straight away to sort of signal our intentions. Feign going into the pits, I don't really know why I did that, but maybe just something trying to distract the Greek driver behind. I could see though that he wasn't going to be quite close enough to go for the move into turn number 1. As I said, I was quite comfortable with the way the Greek driver had been driving, that they weren't going to go for some crazy dive bomb into turn 1 or the chicane, and they were only really going to go for the overtake when it was fully on. Jumping forward to lap number 10 here, we have still got the close attentions of Caraciuto behind us. No matter what we did, we just could not seem to drop this driver, and as we come into the tricky last sector here of Fuji, we're going to have another little bit of a mistake as again we feel the pressure. So we're just going to catch that curb there on the inside, and then it's going to upbalance the car. We're going to have a few stabs on the throttle to try and get the car straightened up and back under control. Just about hold it, but we've now got Caraciuto very close to us as we come out the last corner, and with a pretty decent run in our slipstream. So we are going to have to be defensive here into turn number 1. This is a genuine overtaking opportunity here for the Greek driver. We keep it to the right hand side, we signal intentions fairly early. Caraciuto goes to the outside, and it's just a case of see if we can just break the car in time. We park the car on the apex, a little bit cheeky, but certainly within the rules of racing. We don't give Caraciuto anywhere to go, and we've managed to weather that storm. So only 2 laps to go now, or 2.5 laps. Can we hold on for the win? So this corner here, 100R, I think I mentioned it already in the video, and into turn number 4 here, just the Mazda seemed to be particularly weak in comparison to the Mercedes. It didn't feel too bad driving the car around those corners, but it just couldn't seem to match the pace of the Mercedes. So as it turns out, Carachuto was to sort of reveal himself in the post-race chat to be a subscriber. Carlos EDLV comments on quite a lot of my videos, so that was really nice to find that I've been racing. So he called himself a fan, not me. He calls himself a fan in the chat, but very nice to be racing with a subscriber. Very, very fair, not making any silly moves and not trying to go for any dive bombs, so that was really good to see. Really enjoyed the race. Carlos, you really made me sweat in this one. Managed to sort of force a few mistakes out of me. Unfortunately, the Mazda just a little bit too quick down the straight for your Mercedes. But that was a really good battle and great to race, and hopefully I'll see you out on the racetrack again. So we've jumped forward here to the last lap, coming out the last corner. Eventually Carlos is going to make a little bit of a mistake coming out this corner here. You'll see the gap over up to around about a second. We don't actually get a very good line out the last corner, but we've got the victory secured. Carlos is going to flash his headlights at us as we come down the straight as a little mark of respect. I'm going to slow down just to sort of give a little bit of a photo opportunity as we cross the line, and that is that one pretty much done. So we win the race by 0.3 of a second. A great race with Carachuto there, or Carlos. Kept the pressure on relentlessly for the entirety of the race, but we were able to do it just enough, resist the pressure, resist the attacks from Carlos, particularly that one major attack down around the outside into turn 1. And we pick up our 45th win on the Wombleleader account. And we pick up the Grand Chelem as well of pole position, fastest lap and clean race. So Carlos, thank you very much for the race. It was great to race you. Hopefully we'll get to race again. And you've got plenty of speed out there. I remember you making a comment on one of my videos saying that you've got stuff to learn from me. I think going by your speed, I've got stuff to learn from you. So I'll finish this race here with the post-race chat on the screen. You'll see me and Carachuto having a little bit of a conversation. But I shall end my commentary there. If you've liked this video, please hit that like button, please hit that subscribe button. They are very much appreciated. We are growing very slowly as a channel, and every sort of like and subscribe does help the channel just to grow that little bit more. So if you could be so kind as to hit that subscribe button, I'd be very much appreciative. Look out for a video in the next few days. We're going to try and take a look at a little bit something different. It's actually something that would probably have helped an incident I had in an earlier race, or one of the races in this video. Maybe something that you could sort of help you forward in some of your races. I don't think it's anything that anybody's looked at previously in a video, so could be quite interesting. But until then, thank you very much for watching, and I shall see you on the next one. Goodbye now.
Thank you.